Hey everyone, Mr. Happy here, and something I don't normally do is dip my thoughts into too much of the discourse going on in the community. Sometimes I have a few things to say about a few select topics, as you may be aware of as of late. But this one is one I think we can actually have a real discussion about, and that is the difficulty of normal content. So apparently this forum post is making the rounds a little bit. And I've kept it all cropped off to the side. I'm sure other people aren't. I'm sure other people are capturing this in their entirety. But I just, whatever, what world they're from, server, like, none of that really matters to the point of the discussion. So I've just got the actual text on the forum here on the screen. And see, in chat actually gets to be part of the video. They're saying hi to you over on YouTube. So, difficulty of normal content. That's actually been a bit of a discussion over the past several weeks when it comes to Dawntrail, because, at least in my opinion, as someone who does the upper end of content in this game, the normal mode encounters here in the Arcadian, the trials, the dungeons, have been a modicum more engaging. A lot of that has to do with unique visual tells. A lot of that has to do with the use of environments around each character. And there's like a micro learning process, even if they're really simple to a lot of bosses. It's made even the more mundane tasks more fun than they usually are, which almost always at the start of the expansion, I have a brief thought on the dungeons and the trials, and I move on, kind of, because they're not the upper end stuff that I usually like to play. But that doesn't necessarily mean it's for everyone. And we've got a forum post here outlining complaints about the difficulty of the content. So I'm going to just read it verbatim so there's no paraphrasing. I wanted to wait to see the raid tier before saying anything. There are already a post about dungeon and trial difficulty, and now normal raid should be thrown into the discussion too. I might repeat points already said, but I think we should really make a point of this. We, the people not okay with this difficulty, need the devs to hear it to hopefully make a course correction. I'm going to be a little level-headed about this, or I'm going to try to be, but let's read the whole thing. Let's read it. The problem with the difficulty on normal fights as I see it is use and abuse of non-standard telegraphs, nasty mechanic overlaps, stuff you would see on extreme or harder fights, mechs resolving too quickly for the mental capacity they demand to process, and one too many catch this mechs that have you running around like a headless chicken evading seemingly random patterns. The seemingly is a big thing because when you're doing stuff on normal, they do seem random, but realistically, there are patterns to all that stuff, even the really crazy stuff in the second encounter in the Arcadian, for example. All this has been making fights in this expansion frustrating and exhausting. Now, they are, of course, talking about all the fights, not just the normal mode raids, as they can say right here. The honeybee fight had me wishing for the healer not to raise me. I was there on the floor, dead for the nth time, thinking, I don't really want to be on that duty. And it's not an issue of learning the fight, because that I can do, but we don't do this content alone, you know? I think it was the 4th time I was doing Valagar Manda when I finally managed to finish without dying myself. But that's a moot point when half the party was dead half the time. Even knowing the fight doesn't make it any less disheartening of an experience. And yes, this concerns normal raids too, even if they are optional content. In fact, I got to take the skip option for this raid tier, something I haven't done since I started playing in Stormblood. And that's the point, really. For the most part in the past 3 expansions, difficulty for normal content was fair outside of some hiccups here and there. Firmly believe the content meant to be done via the duty finder, where you don't choose who you play with, shouldn't be this level of punishing. Know that JP people do savage in the duty finder. Well, it's the raid finder, but yeah. But we don't do that in NA or EU. For better or worse, Western players doesn't behave like JP players. Finally, I think that people that thrive with difficulty, the ones that demand harder content, already have extreme savages, ultimate criterions, and more. Yoshi P is even touting of savage alliances. He's realistically just talking about whatever they're doing in Shades Triangle. This people is eating really, really good. Do they need to take normal content too? Can casual players have something easy-ish to play? Please. So, I may seem like I'm just going to go off on this, but there are always some valid concerns with stuff like this. Some. I don't think many of them are outlined here. Use and abuse of non-standard telegraphs is a way to make the game more engaging, because when you see something for the first time, you don't just roll through it. And it doesn't necessarily make the encounter harder. It's a gotcha moment where you go, oh, what does that do? Oh, it does that. Now I know that for next time. But then you realize that it's still Final Fantasy XIV. You're stacking, you're spreading, you're doing a half room cleave, whatever it is you're doing the same thing. The way the boss tells you is just something to get your brain going just for like a second. Like that one little tick that you're just getting where it flips over. Nasty mechanic overlaps. I'm trying to think of any mechanic overlap that's been like not good. Honestly, the only thing that comes to mind is the Stray Burrow boss, and Honeybee basically is the same as the Stray Burrow boss, but as an 8-man boss. So, I can't think of anything that's that bad. Like, I guess maybe if you consider the knockback on the first boss of Tender Valley, maybe the number of AoEs on the last boss of Tender Valley, like. Yeah, like I can't really think of anything. Like maybe the final MSQ boss has some stuff, but even that's more like it's a lot of visual stuff, but it all resolves really slowly. So it's not really a trouble. Like that's probably the closest thing is the final MSQ trial has like a good amount. Like it literally has like a Grand Cross style attack where it's like, spreads on these people, stacks on this person, then AoEs all over the room, then whatever this and that, but it's like a 20-second mechanic. So, and they're also all using standard markers. There's actually no use of non-standard telegraphs for that. Mechs resolving too quickly. I can think of one case where I was surprised something was fast. Two cases actually in the normal mode raids, but everything else was pretty well paced. I think the lariat combo in the third fight, when he comes back the other way, I was surprised that was as quick as it was in normal. It's not that bad. It just kind of teaches you, oh, I can't just stay on one side, then run to the other. I go to the middle of the room and then adjust afterwards. You just kind of got to be leaning into it before the second part even resolves. And the Venom explosion in Honey Bee, when she spreads the little Venom globules that explode, those were surprisingly fast exploding on normal as well. But the mental capacity, I mean, one's like slightly larger than half room cleave, and the other is a bunch of AoEs on the ground. I wouldn't say they take much in the way of mental capacity. They're not asking you to really do anything else at the same time. The closest you get to that is the fuses in the third fight of the normal raid, where you have to do you just have to dodge into the short fuse before the first lariat goes up, but then the second lariat, all the fuses are gone anyway. So it's like, it's a lot of just like, I saw this for the first time. I didn't know how to do it without thinking, and thus it was asking too much of me. I mean, that's honestly how it kind of reads to me in the first place. Now, the person says that they're okay with making the mistake and dying, but other people dying discourages them. To that, I have to say, what do you think the other 7 people may have been thinking about you when you were the one making that mistake? Why was it okay for you to make the mistake and fail, and somebody else to have to be okay with that? But as soon as you have to be okay with somebody else learning and failing, or any amount of other people learning or failing in the group, why is that suddenly the problem point? That's kind of something I really don't understand. When I go into normal, when I go into trial roulettes, when I go into anything that has the potential for people that either A, don't remember the encounter, B, are doing it for the first time, or C, honestly just may not be that skilled at the game. Like, that's a genuine thing. Like, some people cannot learn as well. Some people just aren't as good. There's like a personal skill cap on any given player based on either their effort or literally their ability to do so. Like, not everyone who trains to be great at something trains at something will be great at it. They could be good at it. They could really struggle with it even after tons of practice. So it's just like, you just kind of know that you're expecting that when you're getting into groups, just this wildly varying skill level. All I do is focus on how I can make either their lives easier, and by extension, make my life easier, or how I can just focus on me. I'll usually go healer, for example, because I have power over picking people up. If somebody gets hit by something they're not supposed to, I'm very on top of healing for that kind of thing. I work on myself to make their experience better, which by extension makes my experience better. I also find it hilariously fun to do stuff like that. So I don't know. It's a little self-centered to me to be okay with your own mistakes, but to be disheartened by others. That's just, I don't know, that's just selfish. At least it comes off as selfish to me. But it's been like 2 days. Like, I get that this is not just talking about the normal raid, it's talking about everything, but it's gonna happen. Like, that's just how it is. Like, you can't just be like, oh, people are dying and I've wiped and it's terrible. There has to be some degree of like, I'm playing a video game, right? Like, I'm not just going through the motions with this one, right? So I just on a fundamental level, I can never understand this. It just doesn't make any sense to me. where this need to like be able to cruise through things, every single thing flawlessly with never having a mistake is like the norm or expected. And these, let me be clear again, other than the visual tells being unique to each encounter, none of these encounters are harder than anything else by any measure. I have been playing for quite some time. I've seen the normal modes come and go. I've seen them, dip and wax and wane and all that with different attacks and difficulties. Some things that land, some things that don't. Some things that normal modes do that are a little, I don't expect them to do because it's normal. But then a lot of stuff that's like, bog standard. And there's always patterns. There's always an easy way to resolve it. It just looks chaotic because everyone's just kind of doing it casually, and it moves all the mechanics in a really chaotic way. So I don't see any of these as any harder than normal. I just think that they are asking for you to pay a little bit more attention to the actual animations that are taking place. That's why they've also started to include the red pop-ups on the screen that let you know, hey, something important's happening that you should be paying extra attention to, and we really want to make sure you notice. So like volcanoes exploding, or you collecting hearts in Honey Bee. They're really trying to make it so you have as many tools to learn and observe as possible. And as long as you work on that, that should be all you need. If somebody else dies, messes up, hey, you know what? You have a story to tell your friends. Like, oh man, I went into the trial roulette the other day and, 6 people fell off on this one mechanic. I'm sure they were first timers, but I saw that. I was just like, whoa, that didn't happen the last time I did. It's an experience. It's something that you can take away with it. And generally, if you're not taking it too seriously, have fun. And, it becomes kind of a memory in a sense. And that's definitely kind of the boomer 11 player, MMO player in general in me, who looks at certain things that could look as negatives and you try to make them part of a story or an experience that you can share with other people. So there's just a lot to take away from it. There's a lot of ways you can interpret it. But it ultimately comes down to, it's not that hard. And if you're okay with you failing and learning, then just be okay with other people failing and learning. Like, I don't understand. Honestly, I'm more shocked that this person's okay with themselves failing and learning and just not others. Normally, when I see a complaint about difficulty, it isn't about, okay, actually, hold on. No, that's not entirely true. So a lot of the times people will post, other people can't do the mechanic. How many of us have joined a party where one person dies to a mechanic every time, and even though you've wiped 3 times, they then say to the rest of the party, come on, guys, what's going on? Get it together. I have seen that way too many times. So actually, this is in line with that. It's kind of in line with that experience. Like, I'll learn and I'll fix it. And then but then other people, yeah. A little bit in line with it. But even still, the sentiment that it's not okay for others, even if whether or not it's the truth of this person's experience, the sentiment that they're just not okay with others wiping and dying and causing them to take longer to clear it. As long as they die and they can be gotten up and the fight continues, they're fine. But anyone else? No, it's too much. Too much. Now, of course, there's other follow-up comments. Normal raids have always been bridging content between true casual content and extremes. That's why it's optional. I don't agree with that. I don't think normals have ever been more than just slightly harder. I mean, to be fair, they're not technically incorrect because they are a little harder than trials, but to call it it's more like a bridge. It's like a bridge that's just made of like a bunch of individual planks and rope. Like technically, yes, it gets you from that cliff to that cliff, but you're going to feel really sketchy kind of walking around it the whole time because it's not really getting you there the best way possible because you can't be like, oh, I did the normal raids, I'm ready for extreme. But I still get what they're saying. Like they're essentially on the side of like, they're tuned to be about as hard as the devs are willing to make content with a full pick-me-up group with no strat discussion. Endwalker was the outlier here besides P3. The rest of them just over-glorified trials rather than normal raids. I think some of them are okay on normal. But yeah, I do think that Endwalker also set the precedent a little low. I think that's especially prevalent with the 24-mans, which is going to be scary because if the Final Fantasy 11 24-mans are more like Evilise or more like on-release Nier, which as much as I don't like on-release Nier, it did give people a lot of troubles. So I'm more so just acknowledging that. Compared to Aglaia, Euphrosyne, and Thalia, yeah, that could, we're definitely going to see this post again. If it's anything like that. Yeah, almost certainly. I feel you. You have a vocal minority to blame for this. It's the people that somehow don't play Savage, but complained over and over that normal content is too easy. And now here we are. No, but those people aren't the ones typing. And that's not a minority, because all the people who do play Savage and all the people that just don't do Savage but want something mildly more, that's actually a pretty large amount of people. I'd say that the minority are probably the people who think normal's way too hard. I'd say more so. I think I saw someone here dubbing hardcore casuals. You know what's funny? There is hardcore casual and casual hardcore. That is a real thing. Hardcore casual is usually people who play a lot but don't actually do any like major engaging experience. They just kind of enjoy their time. And then casual hardcores are people who like usually dive into the deepest recesses of the game but don't actually play that much. So that is a thing. But I don't think it's a minority, because I think our clear rates for Savage are in like the across the world are in like the 15%ish ballpark at this point. And that's not, I mean, it is compared to 85% a minority, but that's just one portion of people that would also be in the same thing along with the person that they're saying it is. So I don't think it's a minority. Do I think it's 51% or more? No, but to call it like, to make it seem like it's a small number of people. Yeah. Like let me say this. It's more, I shouldn't say this. I don't need to bring this up. I literally don't. It's probably more people than participated in the healer strike. It's a lot more people than the people who participated in the healer strike. Like, I didn't need to bring it up, but like, it's a great comparison point, because that was another vocal minority argument in regards to healing. And it's like, yeah, we have another one to kind of draw it to. It's definitely a bigger group of people that wanted something they wanted more engaging. I think that's the more accurate thing. It's not even about harder. It's more engaging. And that's what they achieved, because these aren't harder. They're just more engaging. I think that's it. But you agree normal raids are casual, right? Because what I played today was not casual difficulty at all. Yeah, it is. It really is. Like, I'll just say it. It really is casual difficulty. It really is. Like, I don't want to be a jerk, but it really is casual. Like, you might get shocked. Like, for example, on the first fight, 6 of us fell to our deaths. We didn't think about the arena breaking. So we all fell to our deaths. It happened. Like, I just did it with my stream and we died. And then we're like, oh, that does that. And then we were fine after that. Lesson learned. Moved on. Had a good time. And so, yeah. No, it's casual. You might mess up, not recognize something, die. That's fine. You can die, just learn and do better. I haven't done the new raids yet, but the telegraphs and Dawntrail are actually quite good. Yeah, they're unique, and you might be like, I wonder what that does. But as soon as you do, it's very clear what it's trying to tell you. Overlapping mechanics in normal fights has been a thing since at least Stormblood. Reminded of a philosophy from training of surgeons. See one, do one, teach one. See a mechanic played out once, do the mechanic yourself once, teach the mechanic to someone else once, or be prepared to anyway. That's a goated post right there. That's a really, really good phrase. I like that. See one, do one, teach one. Yeah, this person seems to want to skip the teach one. They're okay with see one and do one, but they're definitely not okay with teach one, the OP. And I think, honestly, that might be the biggest problem with the whole thing. Just not wanting to settle for other people. Not getting a mechanic correct on the first try is fine. Party wipes are fine. Instead of trying to power through and do, actually take a moment to see. The hallmarks of a normal fight, that is to say casual content, is that it's obvious how you failed to recognize the telegraph and fail the mechanic. And 2, you don't need to strategize with the rest of the party to do it correctly. Yeah, that's all correct. Yoshi saying he was falling asleep on his dungeon runs. I think he said other people were falling asleep. I think he also said that he's not super engaging. He doesn't find them super engaging, but that they're just kind of like, it's kind of a thing to do for people who just want to hop on for a little bit. Yeah, and this person brings it up to gotcha mechanics. Like, that's what I called them earlier. It's just they get you once, and then you should be able to do them on repeat as long as you're taking a second to actually understand it. Seemingly random. You weren't observing correctly. awesome music, great vibes, fun and engaging. Level 100, you don't get to just do in-out spread anymore. You should have included into that with the dungeons. That is such an Endwalker call out right there. You don't get to just do in-out spread anymore. That is the Endwalker philosophy of design. In-out spread. Woo! That hurts to see in text. Furthermore, players need to understand it's okay to fail. Yeah, this is what we were just saying before. It's okay to mess up, die. It's tuned properly. There's a challenge, but it's not difficult to overcome after a few pulls. And if things go really awful, a single lockout. Unless you're some hardcore type gamer who can read ahead. Even so, those of us who do Savage Raids still make mistakes. Mistakes are okay. It's too bad you're quitting before even trying. Whew! Got it. I like it. Add on to this, they got a bit more interesting by replacing Vuln stacks with dots and status effects, which kind of helps with the complaints about healers. Bro, when you're doing... So here's the thing. I think the third fight is the easiest. It's the least interesting by far, which means on Savage, it's going to be a monster, by the way. But the punishment for being hit... Yeah, healers get to working if you get the dots over and over and over again in normal modes. Yeah, like I get the whole healer argument is still like, I shouldn't only be engaging when other people screw up. But man, just having to deal with all of the dots on that third fight when two people get hit, 3 people get hit. There's a lot of that across a lot of different parts of these 4 fights with just people get chunked repeatedly, going into the wall on the second fight. And it's savable if you're a really good healer. You can still save people's lives if they make a single mistake, even 2 mistakes, whatever. But man, it's it's good. It's good. But I think the third fight's gonna be good. I actually struggled in Endwalker, so to me, Dawntrail is unplayable. That's unfortunate. It isn't for the lack of trying. I promise you I studied and give my all, so I'm sick of people saying we're struggling because we're not trying. I'm sick of the rude attitude people are giving. This is not the community I've grown to love. These people don't care. You're on the forums. None of this is the community you grew to love. You should have known that when you posted here for the very first time, that these are not the people you love. This is the opposite of the people you love. I'm not playing due to frustration, but being stuck on a dungeon. Man, there are really times when I read a post and like a part of me wants to just be blunt and honest about when I read something like this. But here's the thing. I've dealt with a lot of different people, and I've also known a lot of different people, and among them are people with disabilities that genuinely have struggled. So like when I want to say something really blunt and direct, something like this, I always think there's something else at play before I say it. Because a lot of the times it could like, it's genuinely like diagnosed anxiety, or like I had a friend who his hand was crippled since he was like 4. He got run over by a car and he like can't use the joint. So it's kind of just like this, like messed up. Like he can't like close it very well or anything. So you know what he did? When he plays MMOs, he gets like military grade Velcro, and he Velcros a controller on his left hand, and he uses the joysticks for movement, and he uses an MMO mouse with his right hand to play skills. And he's done Savage content in 14. He's done like Mythic in World of Warcraft like that. So like I've seen all sides of it where people have disabilities that are physical, mental. So like that's the thing. I've seen people overcome. And so like I'm always torn when I see a post like this one, seeing like just trying to find the middle ground of how to say it, be like, oh, you're stuck in a dungeon, but like, oh, I feel like there's more at play. I just can't help but feel like there's more at play with when somebody says something like that. So, it's just, I got to step away from those posts because just the gut reaction is to read it as just text and not think about anything else. So, gonna just move past it instead. Let's see. Just so we're perfectly clear, what I'm asking for is to return to the same difficulty of the previous expansions when it comes to normal dungeons, trials, and raids. And all the people giving me tips on how to play, thank you very much, but I've been playing for 6 years. Oh, no. Oh, no. Oh, no, you can't just say that. Oh, you can't just say I've been playing for 6 years, bro. You can't do that. Listen, I've been living for 33 years. I'm not very good at that. So I don't know, like having years of experience in something is not automatically a measure of whether or not you actually fully understand or know everything. And then oftentimes it can make the argument seem worse. I know people who have played since 1.0. I know people who have played since A Realm Reborn. And they do not play the game at a high level. They play it a lot. They mess around. Maybe sometimes they go into Savage. But they aren't automatically good or know what they're doing. They still die a bunch going into trial roulettes. They still die a bunch whenever they go back into an old normal raid because they don't remember, or they die a lot going into the first one, or they don't learn their lessons quickly enough when it comes to visual. Like, I see it all the time. The amount of time you play does not mean you know what you're doing. Heck, I sometimes don't even know. People look to me like I'm some encyclopedia or like some like Giga Chad game. Dude, I don't even know what I'm doing some of the times. It's like, it's just not an excuse to say like, oh, I'm good. I know. Like, I get it. When people try to backseat, like, I've said things like that too. But I know I sound ridiculous when I do it. I'm just like, I just want to get them to stop. So maybe it's a case of that. But still, all the same. First boss is slightly undertuned even for normal. Second boss is fine. I know groups have a rough time with it this morning, but we're going in at one of the... Yeah, that's another thing. We are like the lowest item level possible, pretty much. I mean, 685 is the lowest, but like a lot of people didn't even get above 690. There were people coming to me on the day of normal being like, I don't have the item level to enter. And in my mind, I'm like, if you finish the MSQ, you automatically have 690 left side, and your tomes can replace your accessories right side. So like... a lot of people probably still hovering around 685 to 690 and just didn't like buy more with whatever tomes they had, or just didn't think about it, or whatever the reason is. But that's true. Like, people are going to pick up crafted. People are going to pick up weekly cap tome gear. And then things like this will just get easier and easier. You'll kill it faster. You'll pick up, you'll have more healing. You'll have more damage, all that stuff. Third boss is a mess mechanically. This one needs adjustment for normal. It's got like 3 mechanics. He just does that stupid lariat too much. That's the only thing, is that he just does that stupid lariat and just jumps across the arena nonstop. But there's not too much and too much overlap. What is the overlap? There's fuses of fury and the lariat, fuses of fury in the towers, and then I think he does the mist attack. Like, I think that's it. I don't think there's any other overlap other than those like really, really late in the fight ones. So I definitely don't agree with that. I think 3 is by far the easiest of all of them and has the least overlap and whatnot. Fourth boss is fine. I'd say that fight is designed best for normal. I kind of agree with that. I do think the fourth fight it's a lot of half room AoEs. It's a very normal mode like design fight, which is normal in itself. Phone, leave me alone. I'm recording. Before anyone comes out calling me an elitist savage raider, oh, I think this person deleted the post. I didn't see a post that said anything like that. Feel free to check my logs. They aren't impressive, but apparently the ability to hit your buttons in more or less the correct order is the bar for casual. Yeah, I didn't see the original post for this. So maybe I skipped it by accident. Really crappy attitude. None of these fights where players could just get by hitting buttons in more or less the correct order. So I said I feel like it could use something a little more. Players have natural skill caps regardless of all the things you can tell. Yeah, I didn't see a contemptuous list. Maybe it was deleted or something. A high amount would like the difficulty return from normal. Return from A Realm Reborn. Don't call it. A Realm Reborn wasn't difficult. Like, there were things that were more unique, more distinct, adventurous. They were willing to try things that were very different. Stuff like being chased by Tonberries and Wanderer's Palace. Hard is not the word. Like, look at the mechanics of Coil and then look at now. It's like, it's a good bit different. It's a good bit different. Then we have another deleted post. Serious case of get good. Here that comes, yeah. They wanted Coil nerf too. There was a lot of asking people. Yeah, there was a lot of ask to please nerf Coil. To this day, people still ask for an easy mode version of Coil for the story. Even though you can do it unsynced, they want to do it at level 50, and not everyone can find a group to do it at 50. I'm of the opinion that you can find a group to do it at 50, but you'll be level 50, and they'll all be level 100. They just want your first time bonus. Anyway, I genuinely do not understand how you could get stuck in a dungeon. Even when you die every 2 mechanics, a mediocre DF party can easily carry you. Yeah, I mean, that's the point. I don't run with players. I have anxiety. My heart races handshakes. Okay, yeah, so it's anxiety. Like, obviously, I'm not going to act like I know anything about that. So again, it's just going to move past the comment. But I mean, that does explain it. If you're playing with just the trusts and you have that, although if an MMO is that much of a problem, like you kind of just got to accept that it's not for you kind of situation. You know, like if you have anxiety and playing with other people makes you like that, like the game can't fix that for everybody. It fixes it so you can get through the story, but not for absolutely everything. That's just like you're playing a genre that is innately meant to be played with groups of people. So it's one of those, like, I get you, but also, you know, it's just you've picked a really tough genre to try to get into with that, you know, hurdle, I suppose. And then, okay, now it's just a back and forth between the two. Let's see. Yeah, if you don't feel like playing content, that's fine. Someone who's also started in Stormblood, I have to say, sorry, the difficulty is just fine. Yeah, and then it's just going to be that. And I normally with forum posts, it just gets, it rarely gets better the further you go. That's it. It rarely gets better. It's not hard. You're just not good enough. Is that harsh? Yes. But the normal raids have nothing on Savages or Ultimates. And once you're familiar with the mechanics, they're very straightforward. The combat designers are finally getting to be adventurous. Hey, that's what I said. And try new things that haven't existed before. And in return, we get threads like these. You're upset because it's too difficult. If you really dislike things that feel difficult, come back later with more gear. I promise you that more people will be grateful for the difficulty than not and very happy with this direction. No, I'm happy. Your name that I've cut off on the side of the screen. It's funny because I cut some names off, but some people will put them in their tags and stuff. Yeah, if you've been playing since Stormblood, Shinryu, Tsukiyomi, and Warrior of Light were all as tough, if not harder. Yeah. Yeah. Tsukiyomi, yeah, Shinryu. I'd say those are all pretty good examples. Warrior of Light especially. As like a normal mode that I think is still one of the hardest like normal trials that you can do. If you get Warrior of Light in your trial roulette, you're afraid. You are way more afraid than most other things. Like it's especially if you get to the button mashing and you're like, please, 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 please. Yeah, Golbez on normal's another one. Yeah. Yeah, please tanks, remember to LB. Please everyone remember to mash their buttons. And then the actual like ice and fire. Oh yeah, no. Warrior of Light on normal I think is way harder than anything that we've gotten in Dawntrail. Well, yeah, no, except for the extremes. Yeah, harder than any dungeon, trial, or normal raid that we've gotten. Mm-hmm. Yeah, now it's just fear of failure. A lot of players need to stop being so afraid to fail. Learn and do better. I promise you, people will do better. We finally got good content. Now we're moving back to square one. No, we're at Square Enix. God. First the happy thing, now this. Game being easy for so long led people to being terrified of failure. I got my ass kicked a few times, and it's an amazing time. Completely agree. This has gotten to a ridiculous point. I can't believe, of all things, this is what gets me to post in this hellhole when neurons go to die. But you guys have been coddled by the game by getting easier for so long, you can't even realize you could have almost played the whole Endwalker raid on a second screen while watching a TV show. This game is a snooze fest, quite literally, to the point it became known as the retirement home of MMO players, if not other types of games too. Wait, this person has 51 posts. What do they mean this is what finally got them to post? Liar. I was really invested in this as the idea of it being a first post, but there's 50 posts that came before it. Now I feel fooled. However, you can't play at this level. Learn to play your job and dodge AoEs, because all this game bases its mechanics on are those: counting to 8 and recognizing shapes or colors. You only get a pass at complaining if you're colorblind, because the options for this game, in this game, are bad. Can't do normal raids at this level? Don't. You don't need them. You don't want to do them. You want to do them anyway? Learn how. It's about time you started demanding competence and duties instead of side-eyeing that pug in the PF that can't even do 1, 2, 3 because the game didn't require them to do it before that point. Oh, yeah. And then I think they're talking to the other person here who with anxiety. I already touched on that, but again, I don't really like touching on that because it's a very delicate topic on that end. You just don't know everybody. But that being said, I don't understand okay, maybe it does get better as we go on. I'd like you to accept your place in this matter and go back to preparing my crafting for my week 1. Damn. I'd like you to accept your place in the matter and go back to preparing the crafting of my week 1 gear. Wow. That's a statement. Oh, you correctly identified these raids as optional content for a significant portion of players that have long wished for something more interesting than the stale repetition of basics in different colors. If you have counted yourself as part of that group, I'm sorry to break it to you, but if you struggle on this tutorial level, you never were. If you were never part of the group or didn't want in the first place, you're in no position to lead a discussion. Now it's starting to sound familiar to another topic. I really hope they amp it up a little bit and bring Savage back to what it was in Shadowbringers and before. Maybe even surpass it. Not just in difficulty, but also in a sense of accomplishment and creativity. So far, Dawntrail brings an amazing start to the raid content, which leaves me and many others with great hopes and anticipation. We do not wish for you to be part of this. If your only contribution is holding groups back in optional content, or instead of looking to improve, you cry on the forums. In the famous words of fans of some of the most successful game series ever made, get good. Yeah, forums, they're out for blood with this one. There's a lot. Okay, so I'll also say this. Remember earlier where a post said the vocal minority was the ones who wanted the harder stuff? Am I not bugging, or has there only been 3 people in this thread that have actually had complaints and everybody else has been on the side of this is awesome? I mean, obviously you could just check like ratios and stuff. Like this big post was 76 likes. This one was 49, 30, 18. Yeah, like all the people who are saying, yeah. I feel like after level 100, after 100 levels, 48 raid floors, 40 post of Realm Reborn trials, 60 dungeons, we shouldn't be holding your hand, or you should engage with the content you want for the claims or reward. I hate it because the people who complain about any difficulty in the game are never casuals or people who need actual help, but lazy players. Pay attention to the mechs you've seen for the past 10 years, or in this case, the past 5 expansions of your playthrough. Yeah, well, I was going to say, because they said 6 years, but still. Not at all a vocal minority and being this dismissive of genuine complaints. So now is where I get looped in, because that's what I was very dismissive of the healer strength thing. So we should stop there because it's too personal. It's too close to home. No, I think the point is genuinely made though, because I don't need to touch fun. I was going to add something to that, but no, let's just leave it at that. Yeah. The point is, I think you're seeing here that even on the forums, a place that, like Mufasa told Simba, we don't go there. All right? There's a lot of positivity about Dawntrail's content design in a thread designed to echo chamber this discussion. Because that's, when I click on other forum threads, echo chamber, nonstop. It didn't achieve that. It achieved bringing forth a lot of people who are really excited about what we have now and what we could have soon and what the rest of Dawntrail could look like, which then leads into excitement about job-related stuff for 8.0, etc., etc. So I think that goes to say, no, the normal raids are not too easy. This isn't just me being an elitist, a savage ultimate raider who's tired of baby difficulty content. It's none of that. I get to enjoy things the first time through, and I get to encourage others to enjoy them the first time through. And I get to start doing that with dungeons and trials and raids instead of being dismissive of everything. Like, whatever. Yeah, it's just normal mode, whatever. You know, it's like, oh, no, like, actually, this has got this, and this might catch you the first time, and blah, blah, blah. And I had to make a dungeon guide this expansion. I've had to do that in, like, 6 years. That's crazy. Just to teach people just a few little basics. Not that they were hard, but just give people a little bit of that push, a little bit of that encouragement. And that's all I do here. If you're struggling with something, work on it. That's it. That's how you go to the next step. That's how you reach your next goal. That's how you find enjoyment in things. And if you don't, changing it's not the best. Imagine if you're a red mage player, right? And you love red mage, which, by the way, if you do, like, I mean, bless her soul, to be fair. But let's say that, and then I start telling you all the things they should change about red mage. Would you not think I'm an idiot? Would you not just tell me to wind my neck in? Just like, I'll wind your neck in over there. Like, this doesn't concern you. You would. Why would my opinion matter? It's kind of like the same thing with this, you know? If it's not for you, there are plenty of ways to enjoy it. There are ways to get to experience it and see it on the internet. You don't have to actually play it. And so that's my advice. It's either learn and improve, focus on that, or YouTube the cutscenes. It's like an hour of your life anyway. I've got them uploaded. I even voice acted the characters. Go watch that. You'll love it. I promise. So I think that's it. I think that covers the point. So I'm going to wrap up this little ramble, get this posted over to YouTube. Thanks everyone on Twitch for watching live and commenting. I see. Right there. I'm sure those have been really fun throughout the entire discussion. And let me know what you think in the comment section. Did you find the normal raids too hard? Did you find them to be fun, engaging? What was your favorite one? What was your least favorite one? Throw that counterbalance. There's something you didn't like in there. I think that's fine. But anyway, with that, I'll see you all in the next video. Until then, I bid you adieu. Bye-bye.